And the sense of history is to look at that history, its meaning to you as an individual, but how does that history impact on what you're doing right now?
In this series, we're going to look at the history of the Nation of Islam, this growing nation that has defied all odds, producing world leaders and icons.
This history that's facts.
I saw something that I had never seen before.
Most of what I'm saying now, not too many people have heard it unless I told it to them personally.
No one really knows our roots like we do.
40 Miles represents the mission. It represents the love one must have to embark on this mission. It represents courage, faith, belief, and the willingness to struggle against opposition to walk the uphill road.
This problem is to be solved by God, and the solution of the problem has been given to me.
What is the truth about the Nation of Islam in North America? We'll unveil it all here. Welcome to 40 Miles.
Welcome to Food Nation. We're going to be traveling cities across the country, tasting the best of foods nationwide.
The food is here!
She put flowers in the chicken, son.
Let's go. Let's go. Let's get out of here, man.
Greetings. My name is Sister Hania, and welcome to How to Eat to Live. On this show, we will be gaining the fundamental knowledge of cooking with the Muslims, as taught to us by the Honorable Elijah Muhammad. Log on right now, www.finalcall.com. Get that book. We are going to incorporate the navy bean. We're going to do a navy bean smoothie, which is a protein smoothie made from fruit and also navy beans. We're going to do a navy bean hummus, kind of a snack, little appetizer dessert. And then we're going to do some navy bean soup, which is the staple in every Muslim household.
Through NFA, our own platform, the people will be able to meet the minister, see the minister, experience the minister. The teaching is there and it will resist now because it's the truth. It can't be bent. This is the platform. So may Allah bless NFA. May Allah bless all those who would work on behalf of the vision and let the vision continue to expand.
Never fall again. Never fall again.
Welcome to the Foodie Spot. My name is Sister Carmela Muhammad, and we are a proud sponsor of Doing the Math with Dr. Wesley. I come to you in preparation for possible hard times. We've been told to store food in our home by the Honorable Mrs. Farrakhan. So you can also come to the Foodie Spot and get your navy bean soup, vegetable medley soup, and lentil bean soup, pressure cooked canned. In addition to that, I have dried navy beans. We also have frozen dinners prepared that you can actually store it in your freezer for those times. Pull them out, warm them up, cook them. We also have our natural antibiotic, which consists of fresh ginger root, turmeric root, garlic, and horseradish. We are also shipping our natural antibiotics in addition to our navy beans, red lentil, vegetable medley, and bean pies. For shipping, call 773-420-3948. Again, for shipping, call 773-420-3948. Thank you and enjoy the show.
Hey, powerful creators, and welcome to this week's episode of Doing the Math with Dr. Wesley Muhammad. I'm your host, Janita Harris, and today I'm riding solo. Well, not really solo, because I have a phenomenal guest who I'm super excited to introduce you all to. He is highly educated. He is an author, an entrepreneur, professor, a scholar, and so much more. He's actually earned his Bachelor's of Arts, Bachelor's of Science, while triple majoring in business, finance, and business management and economics. He also earned a master's degree in mathematical statistics while earning a PhD in finance in 2002, when he was the only Black person, period, to earn a PhD in finance that year. He is the creator of the Black Business School, the Fly Nubian Queen Network, many financial literacy programs, and so much more. So with that being said, everyone, welcome our guest today, Dr. Boyce Watkins.
How you doing?
Hey, how are you?
I am doing wonderful. Thank you for asking.
I'm so glad to have you here. And to be honest, I feel like my introduction just really didn't do you justice. You are so accomplished, especially considering the fact that you have a very diverse business portfolio. Can you tell us about the business ventures that you are involved in as an owner?
Well, one of the things that we really wanted to do, one of our flagships and things that was really important to us, was the creation of the Black Business School. I was on the faculty at Syracuse University for 13 years, and I also taught at some other universities, the Ohio State University, University of Kentucky, et cetera. And I really felt as a faculty member that we were kind of getting a raw deal in education. Not only were we being severely miseducated and not being taught the things we need to know as Black people, but a lot of people don't know that student loan debt is actually the biggest destroyer of Black wealth that there is. Black wealth is going backward, and a lot of it's because we've allowed other people to tell us what it means to be educated, and they're filling our brains with the wrong information and taking our money in the process. So it's like somebody robbing you and poisoning you at the same time. So we created the Black Business School as a low-cost, high-quality, culturally relevant alternative to traditional education. So we actually educate children on business because we believe kids should go to business school at the age of 5 or 6 or 7. We also fill in the void in terms of what it means to be Black and what it means to build wealth as a Black person, and also sort of getting away from the traps that have really constrained us economically as a people.
Yeah, and you're also building like a Black Hollywood right now, correct?
Yeah, we do have Boyce Watkins Films, and we created that because we were tired of people distorting our great image in media. We know that other people run media, and I applaud them for building their own power base. But this power base has been used in ways that are abusive, exploitative, that are misrepresentative of who we are. That create, really slave-like scenarios that are really humiliating for our people. For example, you got guys that like Nick Cannon, out here apologizing when he didn't do anything wrong, and I just said, Black men are too great and we're too special, we're too strong to be running around on our knees apologizing. And Black women are too extraordinary and too amazing and too beautiful to be treated as second-class citizens. So the best way to respond to that is to build your own. If you can't build your own, then maybe you're not ready for freedom. Freedom is for grown folks. So we just started building our own, and we put out some great films, The Black Love Blueprint, Resurrecting Black Wall Street, and some other films that have been seen by millions of people. And it's working. Like we're getting it done, and we're making it happen. So we're really excited about that.
Man, you're so phenomenal. Like when I think of ownership, you're someone that comes to mind. And, today's conversation actually is really specific. Our topic today is on economic ownership and enslavement, with an emphasis on the benefit of independence. And I think that's a really important conversation for the Black community. And I'm really excited to hear your insights in it, because you are someone that embodies this naturally and also brings others along with that, so that more Black people can have Black ownership and have our own economic ownership. I also think there's a specific current event right now that really provides a framework for this discussion that many of us in the Black community have been discussing about. But I also want to be very clear that it's not as important about the individual as it is about the underlying principles of what it is to have true economic ownership versus enslavement. And I think there are some undertones with this current event, but I just want to make sure that I really lay that out, because truth of the matter is I am definitely talking about Nick Cannon, but the situation that he has found himself in historically and presently, many Black individuals have been entangled in a situation quite like that. Maybe not to the degree of what we are seeing Nick Cannon, but it has happened, and it's probably going to happen again if we're not able to change our mindsets on building wealth, right? And so we know that Nick Cannon has been famous and highly successful in the Black community and larger society as a whole for decades. We've known him from Nickelodeon to Drumline to Wild 'N Out to The Masked Singer. And in fact, when we think of Wild 'N Out, we exclusively associate that brand with Nick Cannon and Nick Cannon, no one else other than Nick Cannon. However, recently, Nick Cannon has been under fire for a year-old interview that he did with Professor Griff from Public Enemy. Now, he got so much backlash from that particular interview that what we're seeing now is that there were some real repercussions for Nick, also resulting in financial losses for him, which really brings up a whole conversation of what is actual economic ownership, right? I think so it resulted in him losing his own show Wild 'N Out, which was really crazy, because I mean, this is an individual who for decades has been building, and for decades we've seen the fruit of his efforts. But within a matter of 7 days, practically overnight, he lost all of that, which implies that maybe perhaps he didn't have ownership, or that there was some type of confusion of ownership, which I think there are some really strong undertones of a dynamic of slave and slave master at play that are really a teachable moment for all Black individuals. So I definitely think we could use this as a teachable moment for us, and so I also think that when I watched the interview between Nick and Rabbi Cooper, it seemed a little contrived. I don't really know, but I definitely think under that, what I understood from that is perhaps he may not be an owner like we perceived him to be, in the respect that maybe he was beholden to another third party who had the legal authority to say, you have to do X, Y, and Z in order to keep whatever assets we will allow you to have. And I think that's really important for us to kind of tease out, because it's very layered. I think in the Black community, we tend to think that if you have a lot of money, that you are a boss. But also, too, in recent posts, on recent social media posts by Nick that has since been deleted, he was demanding from Viacom his intellectual property, right? So that implies that he didn't own his intellectual property. So what I learned from that situation also is, regardless of our emotional attachment to our efforts and our property, if we actually do not own it in terms of our names are on the legal paperwork, we have no legal state in that. And really the true owner of Wild 'N Out is Viacom. And so I would love to get your perspective just as an owner, but also your thoughts on it, on what does this mean for Black individuals when we think about Black exploitation, but specifically thinking more so of true economic ownership versus enslavement.
Well, we like to use this term, that we're not mature enough to really use on a regular basis. And the term that we love to use is a term called Black Power. And the reason that this is a term that we're not mature enough to use yet is because a lot of people that use that term Black Power, they use it, like it's some sort of cool decoration, some sort of really awesome thing to say. When really a lot of people who use that term Black Power don't even understand what power is, And so a lot of times when I talk to my students, we start with books like Powernomics, where in the very beginning, Dr. Claude Anderson he defines power in the beginning of this book. And he says, power is the ability to pursue your agenda despite the opposition of other people. And so, when you hear conversations about, what it's like to be Black in America and beyond, sometimes you'll hear a powerless voice coming out of people who claim to have Black power. So, for example, if we talk about, building our own and, developing our own Black Wall Street, things like that, I'll hear someone say, yeah, well, every time we build something, they burn it down. They tear it down. Well, then basically what you're saying is that you don't have any power. You don't even know what power is. Because any group of people in all of history that's ever had any sort of real power has had to be able to defend and to protect that power. Every country that has wealth will eventually get invaded by a country that wants to get their wealth. If they can't hold off the invasion, then they weren't prepared to defend the power that they have. So the point of the matter is that in order for us to really just sort of know what power is, we've got to really meditate on that term and really say, okay, well, what does that mean? What does that mean on an individual level? What does that mean on a family level? What does that mean on a community level? Because most of us, just by virtue of how we're raised and how we're educated as children, are educated and trained to be as powerless as possible. I mean, the first thing many of us do when our children are born is hand our children over to their oppressor. And we say, I can't educate this baby, massa. I need you to educate this baby. So poison my child with all this white supremacy in their brain. I want you to find all the slave masters, Thomas Jefferson and George Washington. Tell them how wonderful they are. Find all the greatest white men you can find and tell this Black baby how wonderful white people are. And then tell them terrible things about Black people that, you all started off as slaves. And because we were nice to y'all, you have Martin Luther King. And now you have Barack Obama at the end. Right. Like, so you're giving other people the power to educate your children. You're giving them the power to control all your media, all the images that your children see at an early age, which shapes their thinking, right? They're worshiping the rappers and the basketball players, and they're thinking that all the smart people are white, and they're getting all these other messages, with these other agendas that are warping their brains. And then you're also teaching them, you're training them that, your pathway to heaven is go to this school where these white ladies from the suburbs are educating you, and do your best, make good grades, make sure you're well behaved, right? Don't be, if you're a critical thinker, that's not going to work. Your critical thinkers get punished in school, but be well behaved, follow the doctrine, indoctrinate yourself well, so that you can then prepare to go to some other white people who are going to give you a college degree, right? Now, this college degree is going to cost you $250,000. It's going to put you in so much debt that you're going to die in debt. It's going to suck up all your family wealth, but it's worth it because you will receive the holy grail of happiness, the pinnacle of success, which is validation from your master. And because you've received this validation, you then get the opportunity to go to level 3, which is that because you've done well in our public school system, where we made money off you back then, right? And then you did well in our universities, and we took all your family wealth, we left you in debt for life. Now you get to find another white person that will hire you for a job, right? And all the while, you're being fed media that reinforces this idea that this is your pathway to freedom. Well, really, this is your pathway to spiritual, physical, economic death, psychological death. So if you wonder why you have so many Black folks that are allegedly successful who are depressed, incredibly unhappy, very frustrated, having physical and mental symptoms of the stress from racism and microaggressions, it's because they were never trained to know that you have a choice. You were trained to believe that your only choice as a person, as a Black person, was to completely immerse yourself and to invest everything you had into a system that is controlled by somebody else. So I'm completely committed to playing your game, the game you developed, because I was never trained to play any other game. I was never trained to know even what it means to change the game, to lead the game, to build a different game or whatever. I'm committed to your game. So when I'm in your game and you have chosen the venue, all the fans in the stands are cheering for you. You have picked, you have made all the rules of the game. You have picked all the referees, and you got a better team than I've got. Well, then why am I surprised when I lose the game? Right? Why am I surprised? Right. So I think at the end of the day, when you really think about that word power, you got to really meditate on that and figure out, okay, what does that really mean on a fundamental level? Power on a fundamental level means it starts with basic things like, when I get up in the morning, do I get to decide what I'm going to do today? Or is there, or does Master decide what I'm going to do today? Right? Why is it that you go work for a corporation, you spend more time with your boss than you spend with your own damn children? Excuse my French. I didn't mean to say that. But seriously, why are you spending more time with your boss than you spending with your own kids? That doesn't even make any sense. Are you happy with that? Is that what you want to do? The answer is usually no. So you can really extrapolate that. And then that's where you get the Nick Cannon like scenarios. Nick Cannon followed a trajectory. He followed a path to what he thought was liberation, when really it's a gotcha moment. It's checkmate. Right? Like, we've got you and there's nothing you can do about it. And we're going to make you get out in public, get on your knees, apologize like a little boy. And you're going to do it because you have no exit strategy. You have no other options. And it's beautiful for white supremacy, because when you take the man that's seen as the strongest, when you're taking the alpha and you're breaking the alpha male down to make him into a little boy, and you're doing this in front of everybody, then you're sending a message to the entire community about who really controls this thing. So the reason that Dr. Wesley Muhammad will never end up in the position of a Nick Cannon is because Dr. Wesley Muhammad is smart enough to say, you're not going to defeat me in this game because I'm not even going to show up to the game in the first place. I'm not even playing that game because I'm not going to end up where Nick Cannon is. So we always have a choice to have power or to not have power. But unfortunately, many of us don't figure these things out until it's too late.
Yeah. You know, you bringing up Dr. Wesley makes me think of my first interviews with him. And I don't, he said a lot of stuff, but I remember one time he said something about not being impressed with white people when they do X, Y, and Z. And I was like, oh, we're on camera. Like, I was nervous because, you know, I've never had experienced Black individuals saying something like that. And then there are like no repercussions on why that's problematic. And I was just like, he really just, and then he's just backing it up with, you know, with research and things like that. But I do think that what happens with Nick Cannon is that I understand the fear that he feels, because I think it's not a Nick Cannon situation. It's a collective Black experience where when we challenge racism and we say these are the facts, and if we're not really educated and we're not aligned or partnered with individuals such as yourself or like a Dr. Wesley or the Nation of Islam who are really rooted in strength, you get that internal feeling where, oh my gosh, I just committed social suicide or career suicide, or in his case, economic and financial ruins, where now your intellectual property is no longer your intellectual property, which begs the question, was it ever your intellectual property? I think many of us fall victim to that we think we are bosses when really we're the CEO of our own company and we could be fired like tomorrow. And that's a reality. Yeah.
Well, you know, I mean, the thing about it is when you're talking about freedom in general, your economic situation plays a huge part of your path to freedom. That's kind of the one big thing that if we figure that out as a community, we're going to start winning games instead of losing games. And so, for example, if you're thinking about a Nick Cannon, you know, one of the things that you can sort of say about this is you have to kind of make a choice sometimes, right? Like if I don't want to be addicted to the drug that's being pushed by the pusher, I can just say no to the drug from the beginning. You know, like that's what guys like myself and Dr. Wesley might do. You know, some other individuals that I respect, we just say no. You know, if you called up Brother Nuri Muhammad, I'm sure, and said, we'd like to give you an opportunity to be a host on Wildin' Out or The Masked Singer, right? Where you're going to dress up in a costume and sing and dance all day. I imagine Brother Nuri would say, thank you, but no thank you. I appreciate the offer, but I'm not interested. Right. And that's a big part of never being, getting addicted to something, is to just know what to walk away from, to be able to play chess, not checkers. A lot of us are not trained to do that. We're trained to go where the dollar bills are, right? Where the money is, right? And so the thing is, I think just understanding that not all money is good money is a good first step to your freedom. And then once you learn that not all money is good money, then you have to say, well, what am I doing with my money? Another way that many people are enslaved is they get trapped in these situations where you're working for your open enemy. You're dependent upon your open enemy to feed you, to clothe you, and to give you a place to live. And then on top of that, you have put yourself in a situation where you're living paycheck to paycheck with one stream of income. Well, if there's ever a pathway to slavery, that's probably the greatest one that there is. I don't know if I would want to depend on my worst enemy to keep me fed every day and to keep me in a house every day and not expect to be disrespected at every turn. Right. So things like financial security, like just basic things like saving your money, learning how to start a business, investing in the stock market, at least at a level where you're not wasting more than you're investing. Right. I'm not asking people to go put all their money in the stock market, but why would you spend more money at McDonald's and Popeye's Chicken and on Air Jordans than you put into your own economic security? You see, these things are very important because your financial situation 9 times out of 10 will play a huge part in your ability to either say, I apologize, or you can kiss my black butt. I'm going to keep going, and where the chips may fall is where they fall. I can give you an example. When I was at Syracuse University, I ran into a controversy. I got into a fight with Bill O'Reilly, and it was all over CNN.
Oh, really?
Yeah, it was all over CNN, all over Fox, and we were going back and forth. And at first, CNN was defending and supporting me because they didn't like O'Reilly. But then somehow two white guys must have got together in a room and said, we need to call this off. So CNN kind of threw me out, hung me out to dry. And so it's almost like you're a Crip and you're fighting against the Bloods. And then suddenly the Crips just hand you over to the Bloods and say, okay, we don't want this guy. We're not going to defend this guy anymore. It was like that. So I was being attacked by Fox, and they were putting pressure on the chancellor of Syracuse University to fire me. And what I said, it wasn't that what I said was false. There was nothing that I said that was problematic. But that pressure will cause people to change their behavior. So I had to make a decision. They asked me, they said, do you want to apologize or how are you going to respond to this? And do you know the number one factor in terms of me deciding what to do really came down to me realizing, if I lose this job, I'm still going to be okay. I won't be rich, but I'll have a place to live. I'll be able to, I can still pay my car note. I'll still be able to eat. And once I figured that out, I said, you know what? I'm not apologizing for nothing. So that's security. So as much as I like to say, oh yeah, I just was going to stand up no matter what. No, I mean, it's, sometimes there's situations where you can be brave and the sacrifice is unimaginable. And then there's times where you can be brave because you put yourself in a position where it's easier to be brave. So ultimately, Black people, in order for us to get in a position where we're not apologizing for things we did not do, you've got to understand what power is and put yourself in a secure situation. Because remember, they're at war with you, not when you're born. They're at war with you before you're born. That's why they put the abortion clinics in your mama's neighborhood, hoping that she would somehow think that you're better off dead than alive because maybe she doesn't have enough money in the bank. Like my mama. My mama was 17 years old, had no money, had no support. Daddy wasn't around, none of that. So she was a perfect candidate for an abortion. Like why even let a Boyce Watkins even live when you could just kill him and he'll be better off that way? And somehow somebody came up with that ridiculous logic, and it drives me crazy. So they're at war with you from the very beginning. And I think an awareness of that war means that when you're in a battle, you have to think about your security. And I don't think that we think enough about our security. And then when they come along and they smash us or destroy us in public, we have no defense.
I wonder if it's hard for many of us to actually think about our security, let alone have an understanding of what true power is, like you're saying. Because when I again, going back to when I first started doing the show with Dr. Wesley, I got confronted with a lot of stuff that I didn't realize, but was participating in by virtue of being born in this country, right? So one of the first one was that I believed that I lived in an integrated society. And so it was shocking for me to find out that I didn't live in an integrated society, because I'm like, how could that be? I have white friends. I have white teachers. What are you talking about that I don't have an integrated society? And so I bring that up to say that it's hard for, I think, many of us to begin to understand power when we're not even really clear of the reality of the world that we're living in, especially when there's an illusion created. So if I'm in class and Johnny's sitting next to me and he's a white boy and we have or he's a white girl, whatever, and we have this great friendship, that forms a lot of my perception that especially in this age, we're equal. So I also will hear like a lot of millennials will say racism's still going on. It's 2020, right? So it kind of goes again that it's hard for us to understand power if we don't even truly understand that we're living in a world that, like you said, from the very beginning of our conception is planning our demise. It's just like we can't fathom that.
Well, you know what's interesting. That's great you bring that point up, Janita, because I'm going to tell you this. I upset some people when I just let them know, look, I've got white friends in my neighborhood and I don't have any issue with them at all. I don't have any fear of them. I don't dislike them. On a one-on-one basis, I think human beings are human beings, and good people are just good people, and I think there are good people everywhere. I think that what we have to really process is really what's going on in this thing. What we refer to as racism is really, in many cases, a type of systematic favoritism that is going to occur in almost any environment. And let me give you an example. If I go to work and I'm working for white people, I'm working around white people in a company that was built by white people in a white neighborhood, and white folks are kind of running the whole show, then why would I not expect white people to take care of other white people? Why would I not expect a man to take better care of his own family than he takes care of me? Right? I don't know. I can't imagine a scenario where anybody on earth can go into a community where, they're sticking out like a sore thumb and expect that homogeneous community is not going to have some connection or uniformity around their homogeneity. If I move to China tomorrow, I already know that Chinese people are going to defer to other Chinese people before they defer to me, right? If I want favoritism now, if I want favoritism, I go to Ghana. Well, when I was in Ghana, the Asians and the whites were, they were treated in a subordinate fashion. I got favoritism when I was in Ghana, right? So what Black people kind of forgot and lost, I think, is that there's a natural bias that all human beings have. And we look at that as, oh, you're evil, that's racist, because, that white guy didn't treat me the same way he would treat his brother or treat another white guy. I don't believe the world works that way, because if I'm standing next to somebody from, Bangladesh, and I got my brother on this side, who do you think I'm going to feed first? Who's going to get the job first? If Janita Harris is working for me and Becky or Karen is working for me, I'm going to give Janita the benefit of the doubt in hopes that Janita is the person that ultimately gets the job, because that's what people do. They take care of their own. I don't think that's a crime. I really don't. But there's something about this false illusion of integration that has led us to really think that I can be in your space, in your systems, and in your community and have nothing of my own, and somehow I'm going to get equality. And I'm going to be treated as if I'm a member of the family. If another man is living in my house, he's not going to get the master bedroom. In fact, he's not going to be able to stay here for very long. I'm going to look at him eventually. Seriously, I'm going to look at him eventually and say, ain't you got somewhere to go? Ain't you got a family? Like me and my family are back to dinner. Like, why are you sitting at the table thinking I'm going to feed you the way I feed my own kids? No, my kids get preference because this is my house. So I think Black men, conscious Black men and conscious Black women, I think we understand, we're learning that if you really want to be a king or a queen, you got to learn how to build a castle. You're not. I don't believe any human being is ever going to let you move into their castle and make yourself the king. That just is a complete defiance of human nature. I'm not going to do it. You're not going to come into the Black Business School as a white guy and say, I want to be the CEO of the Black Business School. That ain't happening. No disrespect. Love you. But you got white schools out there. Go work, go hang around them. You're not going to get to run this show because this is our show.
Right. Do you think the feminist movement plays a big role in keeping Black people enslaved as opposed to getting us to be economic ownership? And by that, what I mean is sometimes I struggle with trying to figure out if I am a feminist or not, because I get confused. And by this, why I get confused is because a lot of the times when in feminist circles, it's about equality, but it's like, I don't get paid as much as white women. So what man am I like really, what man am I fighting with? And when we look at this system, if I was a single mother and I had a low income job, I'm going to get a lot of more benefits. Now, if I am in a relationship and I'm married and, my partner, he doesn't have really good benefits and he doesn't have that much money, it didn't really serve me to have a child with him, because I probably will get more assistance from the government without him, because he doesn't make enough, right? In this model, he wouldn't make enough to where it would make sense for me not to. But sometimes I wonder if the feminist movement confuses particularly Black women. And I don't know, I'm still like forming my thoughts on this, but it makes us think that we are competing against men, where most of our households are women dominated and women are already bringing in money, and that really we're not competing against the Black man because he's most likely to be incarcerated or not in the home. But it stops us from, really addressing the issues of economic stability. So now I'm enslaved because I think as a Black woman, I need to have equality as men, when I don't even get paid as the white woman or an Asian woman or even a Latina woman sometimes. But I don't really know. I think, my thoughts I'm still formulating my thoughts. I'm still studying on it, but that's why I said I don't know if I identify with it. Who knows? I might change my mind later on and have a whole analysis of why I do identify as a feminist. But I just don't know if it's productive for economic ownership for Black families, our participation in it. And I'd be curious your thoughts on that.
I think you make a great point. In the spaces that I roll, I tend to listen to people like Nomalanga Mushali Moses, who is all about women's equality, but she does not identify as a feminist, because unfortunately, white feminism, as has been practiced in Europe and America, has morphed into something that is not always consistent with values that strengthen the family. If you look in the history of a lot of the feminism that's been sort of displayed, especially extreme feminism displayed in America, it's become a bit of a gender war. It's become a bit of a competition, and the problem with the gender war and the competition is it leads to a scarcity mindset, which is traditional throughout the history of Europe. This very scarcity mindset that says, in order for me to win, you must lose. Right. And in fact, actually, Sigmund Freud used to help companies sell cigarettes, because they said, oh, we can get women to start smoking, but because he explained that the cigarette was a phallic symbol, and that he could get women subconsciously to believe that when I take a cigarette, I'm taking away the man's penis. Like, this is, you can look
what?
this. Yeah. So it's all about, this sort of idea of saying, I'm going to get him. I'm going to take what he's got. And I don't think that we need that. I don't think our community's built that way. I don't think Black women, the ones that love and support in our space, I don't think that their goal is to destroy Black men. I think they want to see Black men rise to the greatness that we deserve. I think that as Black men, we should, and we do, brothers like Dr. Wesley and Nuri and others, encourage Black men to really take your truest, greatest form, which is to have an important role as the head of a family and the heads of community. And women are right there with us in every step of the way, And so so here's what I will say. When I think about womanism, for example, as opposed to feminism, I think about my fiance. My fiance is a psychologist. She has a great profession. She is distinguished as a faculty member. She sees her clients. She has her own business. She raises the children, and I help. And what happens is that, we understand that different does not necessarily mean better. She understands, like, look, I'm the woman. There are certain roles that I want to choose in this household that you can't choose. And at the same time, there are roles I expect from you as a man. Like, we don't walk around thinking that we're a couple of dudes who are just living in the same house. I don't think most heterosexual men want another masculine human being in the household as their roommate. I know I don't. If you're coming, if you're in my house and you're coming to me with all this masculine competitive energy and you're competing with me and fighting with me and chopping away at my ankles, I'm going to see you as competition. I'm not going to see you as somebody I should serve, nurture, and protect. I'm going to see you as somebody where I got to watch my back. So ultimately, I think that there's plenty of room. I mean, first of all, there's a great need for us to really enforce the significance and the importance of showing respect to our women in every way that we possibly can. Yeah. Because we lost a lot of that when certain communities, not Black communities, certain communities started mass promoting hip hop music in the 1990s that was horrifically disrespectful to Black women. And I think that needs to stop, right? And I think Black men need to be at the forefront of saying that we won't tolerate that anymore. I also think that in general, I learned, from reading books like, What Women Want Men to Know, that you have to listen to women. Any intelligent man that's got women in his life that love him enough to give him advice should take that advice and consume that advice, right? So this whole idea of sort of barbarically taking the lead and telling women to be quiet and get to the side, I'm not a big fan of that. That doesn't work for me, and it doesn't work for the family either. I can't imagine any family operating at its optimal efficiency when you've shut down the queen completely and not allowed her to self-actualize in a way that's going to benefit everybody, right? So here's the biggest issue that we have is that there's a lot of trauma in the community. There's a lot of side effects from mass incarceration. All the Black men that were sent to prison, this was all deliberate. Bill Clinton and Joe Biden and his buddies back in the 1990s decided that we want to incarcerate as many Black men as possible. And that's what they did. So they destroyed a lot of Black families. They created a lot of trauma amongst children. The boys growing up a lot of them didn't have fathers to teach them how to be men. The girls growing up didn't learn how to really trust men because the first man they ever loved disappointed them. So this trauma gets carried over into adulthood, and it undermines our ability to have healthy relationships. So the first thing is that anybody who wants to be a better person, in my opinion, should seek out therapy. I don't care who you are. I have a therapist. Alicia has a therapist. We have a therapist we talk to together. And because being Black is tough, in America, there are some things you got to work through so you can be a better person, so your trauma doesn't carry over and affect your relationship and affect the family. And the second thing that has to be really addressed that's really important is, as we sort of talk about what equality looks like for men and women and everything else, we cannot devolve into the same gender war that is destroying white America. In white America, divorce rates are sky high. The Me Too movement is causing all kinds of chaos, where good people are being accused of horrible crimes that they didn't even commit. I mean, it's kind of a mess, and it's destroying the fabric of society. I think that Black people can take a different path. I really think that, for example, I think that we can all agree that, look, if she and I have a family together, I'm important, yes. She's important, yes. But the family is more important than both of us. That is a basic premise that I think is missed in a lot of the feminism that I see. A lot of the feminism I see, unfortunately, seems to convert into not just gender wars, but a lot of selfishness. Me, my body, my feelings. This is what I want. No, what I want should never matter more than what the family wants. What I want should never matter more than what the community wants. And that's what we had in Africa. And that's what, when you look at healthy African families, right? We know we got chaos in every family, in every society. But if you look at healthy African families, one of the things that seems to be consistent is that the family unit is always more important than the individual. So while you might want to go out here and just do all kinds of stuff and act a fool, you got to put the family first. I think we start there. I think we can have healthy conversations where everybody gets a little bit of what they want.
So if we were focusing more on putting the family first, then we could also grow in terms of economics as well?
Absolutely. Well, you see, family is the key to wealth. If you look at most countries around the world where massive amounts of wealth is built, the family is your first institution. That's your first corporation. And so if you manage that first business incorrectly, or in a flawed way, you're going to lose massive amounts of wealth. The lowest net worth in America is the net worth of the single Black mother. The median net worth of a single Black mother in America is $5. I think for white women it's like $42,000. For a single Black mother is $5.
Wait, $5,000 to $5? You said?
Yeah, $5. Like not enough to buy a McDonald's value meal. Yes, $5. The other group that struggles economically is the Black male, especially when he's dealing with child support and he's got, baby's mamas sort of spread out everywhere and hasn't been responsible with his seed. Well, he's going to suffer financially too. A lot of guys have to live in the shadows because they can't pay the child support on all the children they made, right? Because nobody really taught them or impressed upon them the importance of a man understanding the value of his seed, and that you can't go spreading your seed everywhere because you're going to disrupt your life forever, right? It's going to be very difficult to kind of just sort of rein it back in and build when you've got all these challenges sort of spread out all over the country. And so one of the things that the other statistic I'll throw at you is this. The average divorced couple, when your marriage does not work out and you don't invest in maintaining your marriage, that the average divorcee's wealth level drops by 70%. It drops by 70% for both the man and the woman because the lawyers eat up all the money. So there are people that literally profit. There's a documentary by Dr. Drew called Divorce Corp, CRP. And in Divorce Corp, Dr. Drew breaks down how they make $10 billion a year just from broken families. So when you have a broken family, when you have a broken family, or you get caught up in baby mama, baby daddy-itis, and also when you don't plan your estate, that's another area where people make like billions of dollars are made from this. When you don't plan your estate, you don't think about wills and trusts and what's going to happen when you die. Literally, you're helping to transfer billions of dollars to white supremacy. So a great investment that everybody should make, in my opinion, is the investment in family and the investment in healthy relationships. That's one of the, actually, I don't get to say this much, but one of the things I love the most about the Nation of Islam and the individuals I interact with on a regular basis from the nation, like Vicky Dillard and others, is that there's a protocol for managing relationships. There's a protocol for dealing with, disputes you have with your brother, with your sister. And I like that a lot, because what people don't understand is that economic theory actually says that when you're at war with other people, that your ability to build is almost impossible. Go back to look at old footage of World War II and go look at a country that was in the middle of World War II. All the buildings are burned down. The businesses are destroyed. Half the people are dead. It's complete chaos. You can't build in the middle of warfare. So when you see, for example, you see a lot of this happening online, you'll see Black people just tearing each other apart, going at each other. Oh, that Negro, blah, 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 blah. And all that war kills your ability to build. So if you want to know how to build, if you want to understand why Alicia and I got a relationship therapist before we ever had any problems, it's because I said, look, babe, I really want to build with you, and I know you want to build with me. So in order for us to build, we've got to make sure our relationship is airtight so that we can build on a solid foundation, and we're not going to destroy everything we built because we're fighting each other every day in our relationship.
Yeah, I think you make a really good point about the Nation of Islam. Just from coming around them for the last 2-3 years, I think I'm going into the third year now, and there really is. It's really organized. Like, I've never experienced Dr. Wesley, Brother Warren, anybody else that I've met in the Nation of Islam speak negatively about anybody. I have to say the children there are extremely bright. It makes me realize that our standard for intelligence is so low. Because I used to volunteer at CPS, which is Chicago Public School System. And, there was a lot of learned helplessness within, I would observe, the Black children. Now, one time I went to the Nation, first off, the first time I went there, I was like shocked. They patted me down. I was like, what is this? I never experienced a lecture quite like that. I was like, I learned so much about science and history. They were calling out the heads of white supremacy. And I was like, this is crazy. I was Googling it to see, like, is this the truth? It was the truth. I was like, whoa, I've never been to they don't call it a sermon, but I've never been to a service that where you actually learn history or science or anything like that. But they do definitely have a protocol, and they are extremely independent. And the children, the last time I went there, it was I forgot why I was there, but I went to the bottom of where you can go into the extended part of the service. It's like the gym or something. I can't really remember. But anyway, there were classrooms there for Muhammad University. And I was reading things from second graders. And these second graders were so intelligent. I mean, I didn't get to be around them personally, but I was just reading these second graders when I realized, like, wow, if this was the standard for Black individuals, they're already learning who they are. So they were saying, like, the question posed to in each, how when you go to sometimes the schools, it shows the children's work. So they had to explain someone they looked up to. And so the children had very different people. A lot of them had Minister Louis Farrakhan, but mostly every person that they mentioned was a Black individual. But it was very articulate because they explained we're talking about second graders. They explained why they looked up to the individuals that they did. So one person wrote, "Oh, I love Minister Louis Farrakhan because he sacrifices for his people." And I'm like, what second grader uses the word sacrifice, right? And like actually understands the context of which they're using it. And from there, I just started to realize, like, I do understand why the Nation of Islam is so independent and why they're able to do their own. And from there, I realized I need to stop saying that, like, I'm impressed by these things, because this should just be a standard. Like, for these children, a second grader saying sacrifice and writing it correct is not that impressive, because that's just the norm. It was impressive to me because I wasn't used to encountering too many of that coming from CPS.
Well, what's funny is, I spoke at the Muhammad University of Islam a couple of times, and I remember I came home and I told Alicia, I said, I was talking to 9th and 10th graders, and they were asking me questions that graduate students normally ask me. Yeah, it's and the thing is that there are many pockets of Black excellence that exist around the country, like Freedom Home Academy International is another school that Alicia and I actually created. When we created a foundation, we were trying to figure out, okay, what do we want? What are we passionate about? I'm not passionate about sending more Black kids to big white universities so they can be miseducated. It becomes, because you got to reverse all the addiction to white supremacy years later. I have to spend years convincing them that everything they've learned is pretty much incorrect. And so what we decided to do was we wanted to create the foundation to fund independent Black-owned schools that really should be getting far more funding, far more community support, because this idea that it's just sort of this unsolvable puzzle on how to educate a Black child, that's a myth that was created by racists. That was a myth that they hold on to as an excuse to make money from having your child in the public school and then not delivering what they promised that they were going to deliver, right? Because they make money from those little Black bodies being in those schools. That's why they want the kids there. But you have to understand. Look, I mean, sure, this is racism and everything else, but really, if you're allowing people to opportunistically exploit you in that way, do you blame them if they keep doing what they're doing? No, it's up to you to decide. You know what? My child's not going to be in that sheep, in that slaughterhouse anymore. I'm not putting my children through that stuff. I'm going to make sure they get the education they need, because there are schools out there that are doing it. When I went to Freedom Home Academy, there were 7-year-olds that were doing things that most high school seniors in Chicago public schools cannot do. They knew more Black history by the age of 8 than 99% of the Chicago public school system kids know in their entire life. Right. And that's because there was a deliberate effort to make sure they were properly educated. A lot of our problems could be solved as a community if we simply just did a takeover of the educational process and just said, look, you're not going to molest our kids anymore. You're not going to molest their brains. We're not going to hand them over to you anymore, because we're going to stop contributing to white supremacy. The biggest white supremacists in America sometimes are Black.
Yeah. Oh, we're running out of time, and I have so many more questions, but I'll make it short because I know you've got to go. You're a busy man, so I definitely appreciate your time and energy today. So earlier you talked about Joe Biden. Election season's coming up. You voting?
No, I'm not voting for anybody. You got to earn my vote. My vote is not cheap. I'm not giving it to you just because you're the lesser of two evils. Even the lesser of two evils is still evil. If you can't impress me enough to get my vote, you're just not going to get it. So no, I'm not voting for anybody. I'm not telling anybody what to do, but I am not going to ever let anybody take away my freedom to make a decision that works best for me.
From an economic point of view, can voting increase more Black ownership, do you think?
Under the right conditions, I think that it could. If either party or any other party makes a conscientious effort to significantly increase Black ownership, at that point, I would consider giving them, my vote. The problem is that typically when they offer their support, it comes with these strings attached that are just intolerable. Even if you look at things like the Black Lives Matter movement, anybody who's smart enough to do the research on Black Lives Matter knows that they only use the term Black Lives Matter because you're going to feel shamed into supporting them, because how can you disagree with a statement like that Black Lives Matter? We know Black Lives Matter, right? But it's a trick. It's like, okay, yeah, oh, you agree Black Lives Matter? Oh, well then, here's a bunch of other things that we packaged into the deal that you didn't sign up for, right? So if I'm giving you poison Kool-Aid, it's never going to taste like poison. It's going to taste sweet and delicious. I'm going to figure out your favorite drink. I'm going to put the poison in it, and then I'm going to offer you a drink. So a lot of times it's very, there's not enough trust to feel comfortable even drinking the Kool-Aid, because 9 times out of 10, they are putting poison in the Kool-Aid. So, I think, if Biden or Trump or whoever else they bring along, came forth with a plan that allowed for Black wealth creation with no strings attached, meaning schools that we could run in our communities with our teachers, wealth that would support our businesses without having to follow anybody else's agenda, I would certainly support that. The problem is that they've just never done it before. So honestly, I just don't trust them that much.
Right. How can we turn things around then?
Build where we are. We've got 1.3 trillion in spending power. 1.3 trillion makes us one of the 10 richest countries on earth. If we were a country, we'd be a wealthy country. So Black people don't.
You talking about Black people?
Yes. If Black people were a country, we would be one of the 10 richest countries on earth. And there are countries that have 1/4 of the resources we have, who are able to have their own school systems. They are able to have their own sports teams and entire sports leagues. They are able to own their own media. We don't have a lack of resources. We just have a lack of imagination, a lack of courage, perhaps a lack of training and preparation, and a lack of unity, a lack of determination. If we build those things up, then there's really nothing that we can't do. I mean, remember this. Don't forget, we are the descendants of the people who survived the worst form of slavery in the history of all mankind. We survived the Middle Passage. We survived the slave dungeons. We survived Jim Crow. We survived mass incarceration. So there's an argument to be made that we really are a chosen people. We are as special as we decide we're going to be. And I believe that if we raise our children with the same understanding, I was talking to our little girl today, and I just randomly walked up and said, I need you to understand how special and extraordinary you are, and there's nothing that you can't do. Just sort of having that fire every day in everything you do, and not let anybody slow you down. That right there will give you all the fuel you need to burn through anybody's barrier. White supremacy don't stand a chance against a determined Black man, a determined Black woman, a unified Black family, and a strong Black community. And I believe that to the core of my soul.
Wow, that's so powerful. What you just said about us collectively, Black people, being rich enough to be our own 10th country really makes me realize that there is a lot of Black participation in many industries, but there is low ownership in those industries. And you actually, like any good scholar, have your own term, economic immaturity. And I wonder, I can't help but think about that. Is it because we're so economically immature that we're not taking not granted, but we're not taking action with the fact that if we were to collectively come together, we could be our own country and just make things happen?
Yeah, well, economic immaturity, you're right. That is a term that I kind of put together because it accurately describes what we're dealing with, right? When we train our children, we have a Black business school for children. It's Black Millionaires of Tomorrow. If people want to go check it out, it's really good. And one of the things that that we sort of deal with is the fact that from the time that we're young, we're taught all the wrong things about money and what wealth is and what it's supposed to be used for, what that money in your pocket is supposed to do. If you ask a child, an immature child, here's $20. What are you going to do with $20? Well, what are they going to say? They're going to say, oh, I'm going to go buy some candy, right? Or I'm going to go get those new shoes or whatever it is they want to buy. They're thinking consumption, right? But the problem is for a lot of these kids, you fast forward 20 years later, when they're 25, you give them $20 again, they're doing the same thing, right? They're not thinking about wealth and money for what it is, which is capital. That's your ticket to freedom. That's your opportunity to build. That's your chance to grow and develop something. That's your chance to secure yourself, right? So economic maturity is a basic idea that just says that that your money is your power, and you really want to think about where you apply that power. And you don't want to waste that power. You don't want to throw your power away and then spend your whole life complaining about how powerless you are. Economic maturity means that I understand just maybe basic things like, for example, the 3 pillars of wealth. The 3 ways that people get rich in America are typically through stock ownership. That's how people go from middle class to upper class. Wealthy people are far more likely to have been stock market investors even when they were poor. They were stock market investors. They started behaving like wealthy people. Then they eventually became what they were pretending to be, right? Number 2, ownership. Home ownership is how people go. Statistically, that's how they go from lower class to middle class. So home ownership pushes you to middle class. Stock ownership pushes you to upper class. The third area is entrepreneurship. The ability to start your own business can do at least 1 or 2 things, or 3 things actually. 1, it gives you a plan B in case Massa don't want to hire you no more. Number 2, it can give you freedom in case you're tired of Massa and you just want to quit and you want to have options. 3, if you're really fortunate, if you join a group of entrepreneurs and you get a couple of good ideas, it can skyrocket your income to the moon. I hang out with a lot of Black entrepreneurs. You'd be amazed at how many people I know who are not famous, who are not ballers, who are not rappers, who are making $100,000 a month. You show me a job other than the NBA or the NFL where people are making $100,000 a month. I know several entrepreneurs that cleared $100,000 last month in their income, and you ain't gonna get that from no job. You get that from running your own business. So what you do with your children is you get them started on that path early so that by the time they become adults and they get into this economic competition, they are ready to go. They're warriors.
Oh my goodness.
They're ready to build. That's what you do. That's how you make Black people great again. So to steal Trump's phrase, like that's how you make Black people great. You prepare your kids early. And at that point, what happens is that they're not going through life feeling like, oh my God, the white man's got his foot on my neck, right? Like I'll give you, just to be honest, I don't even know if this is going to upset anybody or not, but I'm going to bring this up. You think about the horror of watching George Floyd die with this white man with his knee on his neck, right? That was terrible to watch. It was traumatizing, and it changed the world. R.I.P. to George Floyd, 100%. But I'm going to ask you an honest question. Do you think that that an officer would have had a video of him with his knee on the neck of Dr. Wesley Muhammad or any member of the Nation of Islam who's rolling 20 with a bunch of other brothers that got lawyers?
You can't even get that close.
Seriously, like really, do you think that, I mean, because predators tend to get the weakest prey. They go after the prey that's isolated, right? They're not gonna go put their knee on the neck of a member of the Nation of Islam because that's where real men live, right? They're not the NFAC coalition. Do you think that any of those guys will ever die with a police officer having their knee on their neck, where everybody just watching and sitting there and just letting it happen? No, right? So the point of the matter is to say that if you stay ready, you ain't got to get ready. And if you stay ready, then they ain't going to catch you when you're not ready. So I say to Black men and Black women, we get ready early, we get our children ready, and we teach them how to stay ready so that when the enemy comes, because they're coming, they're going to be prepared to respond in kind. So no, I don't want my children going through life thinking that a white man has their foot on their neck. I will put them in no such situation ever.
Oh my gosh, this conversation is giving me life. It is so invigorating. I hope all of our audience are sharing this. This is like, I'm pumped. And I'm like, oh, I got to let him go though. So I just want to ask one last thing before you go, because right now you said a lot of real stuff. So I'm just thinking, you know, a lot of us, some of us have been getting more money through unemployment and pandemic unemployment than ever before. You know, we even got that 600 supplement. And I was thinking, like, if you're saying that a lot of us have economic immaturity, which is so true. My niece is 2 years old, my twin sister, and they went to the store and she wanted candy. And Jalissa said, no, I'm going to buy you shoes. And then Eden said, let me choose. And then Jalissa was like, all right, you can choose either the candy or the shoes. She chose the candy. And then, you know, my twin being the mom was like, no, Eden throws a tantrum. But of course she's 2. Like, you know, so when I think about that, that makes sense. And we would also just assume naturally that as an adult, you would age out of that. But based off of the theory that, you know, you've studied and you've developed, you're saying that's not true. So what's some tips that you can give Black America on how to maturely use that additional 600 that people have been getting?
Well, you know, it's tough, right? I mean, I think that when you're talking about unemployment, that is a scenario that brings a lot of stress, a lot of anxiety, and my heart goes out to anybody that's in that situation. You know, I think that, you know, your first thought obviously has to be your immediate financial security, right? Just making sure that you have those basics, right? The place to live and food to eat, but then also sort of looking at the bigger picture of your life and sort of saying, okay, you know, the pandemic is it's a freeze frame, right? It's a timeout. You know, we've been pushed out of the life that we had before. And the question becomes, what life do you want to have going forward? And in some cases, that old life isn't even available anymore. You can't go back to what you had before. You know, there will be a new normal, whether it's by design or by accident, nobody knows. You know, I personally am glad Brother Wesley wrote his document that Facebook wouldn't, you know, that they took it off the platform or whatever. But I'm glad he wrote that, because I think we should look at all possibilities in terms of how we ended up in this place. I don't believe all this was by accident. I just don't. But whether it was accidental or coincidental, you know, your life is you're hitting the reset button. This is a huge opportunity for you, right? So this is your chance to make key decisions in at least a couple of key areas. One, how are you and your children going to be educated from this point forward? The pandemic has introduced a lot of us to educational resources and opportunities and options that we didn't know existed. Every Thursday, for example, at noon, Noma Langa Mushali Moses does free homeschool Q&As for parents that want to figure out how to homeschool their kids. She's very good at it. It's theblackHomeschoolNetwork.com. Yeah, theblackHomeschoolNetwork.com, if anybody's interested. So there's stuff out there. And then the second key question is, how am I going to make my living, right? How am I going to pay my bills and build for my financial future? So in this particular context, I would encourage anybody who isn't happy with where their life is to find some low-cost way to learn the skill that you need in order to move your life forward, in order for you to take that step in the direction you want to go to, and try to find a space where there are people who are already doing what you're trying to do. So if your goal is, look, I want to build a Shopify store and sell products, well, go take a class from somebody who has a Shopify store that can help you cut to the chase and avoid all the mistakes, so you can learn faster and generate that revenue sooner, because everybody's got bills to pay, right? Because here's the thing, at the end of the day, when you talk about freedom, particularly financial freedom, it's not like you have to have $1 million in the bank. Financial freedom is basically the ability to get your bills paid and to build your wealth in a way that's ethical for you, in a way that you can live with, where you have as much freedom and as much power in your own life as you'd like to have. So by choosing to educate your own children and finding a better way to make your money, that then allows you to shape your life into what you want it to be. The last component of that is the biggest investment, which is the relationship you have with a significant other. You cannot discount that, right? And if you handle those three things really well and think about them carefully and look for information, consume information. You know, if you want to have a better relationship, there are experts out here that can give you information on that. There are articles you can read, you know, all kinds of stuff. Consume that information, because I really think you got to rebuild your life. You've got to rebuild your life. If you work it the right way, COVID could be the best thing that ever happened to you, because it forced you out of your previous hypnosis and woke you up to other possibilities. But you got to go find out what those possibilities are so you can shape your life into what you want it to be.
Thank you so much, Dr. Boyce. This conversation has been amazing. I clearly understand why you have the benefit of independence. I see you're off the plantation, and I'm trying to get off the plantation myself.
You'll get there. You'll get there.
So, you know, hopefully I'll get there. Yeah. So with that being said, we're going to wrap up. Please let people know where they can follow you, get more information. You have so many ventures. Please give us more information.
Well, I'd like to give everybody a copy of my book, It Takes a Village to Raise the Bar. I wrote this book 5 years ago as kind of just a general statement on what I call the new paradigm, which focuses on wealth, education, family, and community, and how we can build our community up. And people can go to allblackeconomics.com. That's allblackeconomics.com, and you can get a free copy of that book. It's been downloaded probably a couple 100,000 times. And so that is, I think, a great way to kind of begin the process. And also, if anybody wants to learn how to invest, we have a free training from the Black Business School on how to buy your first share of stock. You can go to firstshareofstock.com. That's firstshareofstock.com. So go get the free stuff, and then and just kind of dig into that. We give lots of free stuff at the Black Business School because I think we do it better than anybody. So I hope everybody will go take a look.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.
All right, powerful creators. That concludes our show today. This is like going to the club for me. Like, I really get pumped for these conversations when I have experts and they drop knowledge like this. Like, we just got some free game on how we can, one, wake up from enslavement and become a true economic ownership, and wake up from the illusion of just because you have a whole bunch of money might not mean you're really owning your own intellectual property. Like, come on now. That's like adrenaline pumping, endorphins releasing, whole shebang. You know, if you're not pumped from this, we might not be the same, but it's okay. I'm gonna give you that energy anyway. But I'm very grateful for the opportunity to speak with you, Dr. Boyce. Thank you so much for just being a part of this conversation, and then really for the work that you do for the empowerment of Black people, and really dedicating your work and your platforms for building with Black people. And today you gave us all a different amount of resources that we can plug into. So,
well, thank you very much. I'm honored to be here, and I know Brother Wesley isn't here, but please give him my respect. I just love that guy so much and have so much respect for him. And I think working together, I think that we all working together can't be beat. So, and I applaud you, sister. I don't know how old you are, but you don't look as old as me. And I applaud you for learning and consuming information at the age that you are. It's going to make you a wise and wonderful leader in the community. God bless you.
Thank you. Thank you. All right, powerful creators. We'll be back next week for another special show. Bye.
Bye-bye.